Welcome to Game Devs Play Games, where we play games and talk game design, and today we are playing Sausage Sports Club. And we have with us, I don't know, it just feels right to say it though.
No, that's fair.
It's meaty. And we have a special guest with us. We have Chris Wade, the developer of the game.
Introduce yourself.
How's it going?
Besides that.
I'm Chris Wade, like other Chris said. I'm making Sausage Sports Club. It's a sausage-themed physics game about these long-necked animals playing sports games. And it's on Kickstarter right now if you want to back.
Yeah, so check that out.
Do it. All right. So play a couple rounds, I guess?
Yeah.
So, yes, Sausage Sports Club is basically an arena-style game with a bunch of different game modes. So, soccer, coins, capture the flag, sumo, paint. I feel like most of those are self-explanatory. But I think we're going to play each of them anyway just to kind of show off them and talk about the design.
Variants. Let's do it.
So, I find it fascinating that you made it an 8-player based game.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems to be more and more popular lately. Looking at games like...
We add a bot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that would only be fair.
Yeah.
The question is, who should be on the bot team?
I should not be on the bot team. The bots are really good right now, so whoever's against the bot will probably lose.
I will be bot then.
I am Omnibus Man.
Oh,
This is my favorite.
That's the new character.
Super jelly.
So Nathan and I have had the luxury of playing a bit of Sausage Sports Club at BitBash and or some other Chicago indie dev events. You have a hot dog on your head.
Do I? Or do I have a... Snorkel's pretty perfect. Or do I... Nah, I think I'm just... Wow, there's a lot... Oh, look at the little Viking here. Oh, the pig. That's too good. I should probably just choose. Okay. Chef hat. Done.
There you go.
Nice.
So soccer is pretty simple. We just need to hit the ball into the opponent's goal.
Yep.
Which,
Oh, man.
you know,
Whatever.
Was that you?
I think that was the bot.
Oh, okay.
I was playing...
Oh, yeah, you're the bot. All right.
Yeah, I was playing soccer earlier by myself with a team of, like, 7 bots, and it was absolute mayhem, but it was also hilarious. But I think the thing that drew me to this game was seeing this being played at events like BitBash. This really is, like, one of the best kinds of games to find in an event because it's quick, it's chaotic, it's hilarious, and it has this kind of charm to it that works really well in a party setting.
It really does. Also, because the mechanics by and far are pretty simplistic. Anybody can actually like pick it up and play it.
Oh yeah.
I think that really caters to...
Yeah, because all we really do is run around, swing our long heads, and jump. I think that's really the only mechanics. I guess we can ground slam.
Yeah, and there's also the dash with X. You can use that to kick the ball or knock around other people.
Oh, okay.
You.
Should we move on to coins?
Yeah, we can go through all of them and come back.
Okay, cool. Red team.
Yeah, so this one can be free for all.
Oh.
I'll be pink dog.
Fancy bus.
I love the little corgi.
Thanks.
So I guess the first and probably most obvious question to ask is what inspired this game?
Yeah, so this game, like all of my games so far, have been inspired by like technical experiments, like things I'm interested in trying out in the engine, or like
kind of seeing what you can use Unity for and things like that.
Yeah. I always design a toy first, and then once I have a toy, I think about how it can become a game. So with this, the first thing I made was a tentacle that was in place on the ground, like stuck to the ground, couldn't move or anything. And you could, with WASD, just like move around the tip of the tentacle. Once I had that, I was like, okay, this is already pretty weird, and I haven't seen any games do that. But I feel like restricted, so I want to move around. So the first step, the first way I could try to get away from that was to add legs. And then once I had legs on it, it was just like a tentacle with feet on it. And it was already fun and weird, and I tweeted a few GIFs of it, and people seemed to like it.
I think that's a really good way to just test kind of the demographics to see how like people will respond to it. One guy I follow on Twitter, I think his handle is like Punches Bears.
Yeah.
He's right now he's one of my favorite developers just because everything he does is so funny.
Yeah.
But he's another one that's really huge into physics-based games. And I don't remember what the game he's working on is, but search it on Twitter. There's a bunch of like bears hanging from like stretchy cords with chainsaws and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's at Punches Bears on Twitter.
Yeah. And so I love it though because it's like he came up with the concept just from playing around and experimenting with tool sets. And I don't know, I feel like as an indie developer that's one of the best ways to kind of see what's new and what interesting things you can do that might not have been done yet.
Yeah.
It's very much a like building a game based off of game mechanics style of design, which I feel isn't very popular between a lot of AAA studios. I mean, maybe it's obvious, right? But I forget what some of the other styles of design are, but usually it's like basing it off of a story or basing it off of like technical limitations. But basing games off of game mechanics, I feel like you don't see enough anymore.
Yeah, I think AAA games definitely don't experiment with weird new ideas most because they usually start with like okay, we have Call of Duty, now we need to make another Call of Duty that will sell as well or better than the last Call of Duty. What can we do to do that? And it's not like what kind of weird mechanic can we make that nobody's ever seen before? It's like how can we like improve this a little bit so that it's still similar enough that people know what it is and want to buy it, but also add new things that are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Were you yellow team?
I was not yellow team. I was red team though. I did second best.
I was green.
I didn't get a single.
The bot kicked our asses.
Yeah, I did.
So then, after you kind of established the core mechanic of the game, how did you approach making each of the game modes?
Yeah. So for the first like six-ish months of development, I was working on just soccer and like just making all the player movement, like hitting the ball and stuff like that feel good. When I showed people the game, that was the stuff that they were frustrated by or annoyed by. And once I finally got that feeling good, I decided I wanted to do more modes besides soccer, and then I just started playing around, similar to how I started developing the game. It was just like, what would be a fun thing to do with what is there in the game, and so I started messing around with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and another thing I did was, around that time, I looked at the Wikipedia page of like every sport that exists in the world, and some of them I hadn't really heard of and were super interesting, but most of them were things I heard of, and it was just like just a refresher.
That makes sense, but it's very much like designing the modes based off of pre-existing sports, really drawing inspiration from them,
yeah.
Which I think is a smart way to do it because, why reinvent the wheel if, someone's already made something. And that, I think, in a way that gives you a lot more time and freedom as a designer to spend refining the mechanics to kind of suit your needs.
Sure.
So then, did you do a lot of focus testing, or did you just kind of like have friends play it and kind of judge their feedback from there? Because we've seen this at events like BitBash and stuff, so obviously it's been in the public's hands.
Oh yeah, and every time we've seen it grow more and more each time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're dead.
Oh yeah.
Teal
Yeah,
team.
You guys are bullies. I'm just really bad.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so along the way, I've definitely been testing a lot and like seeing what people react to and making fixes based on that. Like this mode specifically, when I went to PAX, a lot of people would like immediately die too many times and then be out, like Nathan is right now. And
I'm studying and learning.
there were a few problems with the level. It was the same like level design as this, but some things that were that were keeping people like starting people dying too fast was that there were only 2 lives, and that was like people could accidentally die much too easily for that. And the other thing in that version of the game was these spike pits weren't here, so you could just like kind of camp in those in the front and back, and then it was
right time.
Yeah, it was super hard to kill people when they were there, because the like bumping somebody with a dash only hits you like 70% of the way to any of the edges if you're standing in the center there.
That makes sense. That's a good point though, because you'd think that a lot of the design would just be around like building out the mechanics and just building out game modes, but that actually that's a level design thing right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's from that, and from like soccer, and from looking at how people interact at the levels, that's definitely how I'm going to spend the rest of development, like designing around what players actually do and what's hard for people and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
Every time I take it to a show, or every time I do a playtest or something, people tell me things I would have never thought of, or they play the game in a way I would have never played it, and it just makes the game way better.
And I think that really speaks to how important iterative design is, and why playtesting is an essential component of that. Because there's only so much you can really find out on your own. And then being able to iterate from there after you kind of learn those things is kind of essential, because otherwise, you learn things and then, what if you don't iterate, then it's just, you're stuck with what you've got.
Yeah.
Which I think that's why it's one of the things that I do like about things like early access games, is that it sort of gives a lot of indie devs especially the means of getting that game out there and having their players actually play around with it and refine it from there.
Yeah.
I'm less happy when I see AAA developers doing it, because they have the resources to do real focused testing.
Yeah, sure.
Well, another question, one for more, I guess, the future. You're doing your Kickstarter now. What exactly are you hoping to obtain from the Kickstarter?
Yeah, so
Speaking away from the microphone, by the way.
Aim for his, on that one.
Yeah. So for the Kickstarter, I'm not so much looking to like make money to pay myself to make the game. It's more to pay for like marketing and going to events like PAX, so that I can actually let people know that the game exists. Right now in indie development, that's probably the hardest thing to do, is just like make people aware of your game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a game called Brigador that came out like 3 months ago or something like that, and that game is super cool. It's like a 3D isometric game with pixel art, and it's you walk around in mechs and like shoot things, and it's super badass, and the game is really well done and awesome, but nobody had heard of the developers, and they had trouble getting press and marketing, so nobody bought the game at launch. And it was a really good example of, for me, seeing that happen. It was a really good example to not follow that same path and to focus on marketing as much as I can while developing the game.
Yeah, and it's hard too, especially as an indie developer, or even like a no-name indie developer, right? Where like you don't already have a following. How do you get people to notice you? And especially if you're a solo dev, you're already wearing so many hats. How do you have the time to learn how to be a marketer?
Yeah.
In addition to making the art and programming the game and designing things.
Yeah.
And then even handling the legal side of being a solo developer. It's a lot.
Totally. And what you're saying, like me wearing a ton of hats and having to learn how to market, has definitely influenced the shape of the game. One example, a lot of people ask me when they play, do the different characters have different collision boxes? Like does the shark have like a long box in front of their face that's different? And they totally don't. And that was a purposeful decision from the start, so that I didn't have to balance the characters, because it would be more time and like harder to do it, and I would need to playtest a lot more to get that stuff right.
Yeah, and having those variants, that just complicates the design as a whole, like, tremendously.
Yeah, and it might have been a better, more deeper game if I had done that, but it just wouldn't have been feasible for me to for me to like make that game if I had to also do like combat design between
Yeah.
each of the characters.
And having to come up with balance between each one of those
Yeah.
can take a lot of work.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the decision that most designers would not want to make, but it's the responsible one to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then if you do like exceptionally well in the Kickstarter, like you make $1 million in Kickstarter,
Sure.
as preposterous as that would be,
Yeah.
do you think you would want to spend extra time on it and kind of develop it further, or would you rather just keep it designed how it is, but just make it the best you can, and then use the rest of the money to fuel the next 20
Sure.
games?
So if I were to raise that much money on Kickstarter, because those backers are supporting the game, I would use all of that money to make the game as good as I can make it, or to since my Kickstarter is focused on marketing, to like market it as best I can.
That's a really fair way of looking at that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
Yeah, but
a lot of people tend to go outside of it and be like, oh, well, I guess I have all this extra money. I'll do whatever.
yeah,
with it.
do the next game or whatever.
Like, I guess I'll just be able to live forever.
Yeah, but if somebody handed me $1 million and was like, do whatever you want, I still wouldn't spend that much longer on the game. I would probably hire people to help me make it better. Like, I would hire somebody to help me make the environment art way more polished and way more detailed, and make the fish not basically like spheres painted orange. But
That's fair.
But for me, I know this is my first commercial game. Like, that's what this is for me. This is practice in the whole process of like coming up with an idea, making it, like polishing it, getting feedback, making it better, doing marketing and everything. So I know that my next game is going to be better as a result of everything I've learned from this. So I don't want to spend the next like 3 years on this game, even if I had a bunch of money to do that.
That's fair. Yeah, and even at that point too, like it can only be so good, especially at this point in your life.
Yeah.
Like it's a saying that your first 10 games are always going to suck, and who knows what number this ranks on your scale of how many games you've made, because you went to school for game development.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, if this is within your first 10 games, then it's obviously not terrible, and then you're breaking the mold. But that said too, like it can only be so good because it was designed at this point in your life, and you're still on your game development journey and learning everything you can. So I think that's smart. It works for some games, like you see games like Dwarf Fortress where it'll just never stop being developed until those guys die.
That's amazing. If I release this game and people love it and they want more and they like, and I as long as I think I can make the game better and keep getting more people to keep playing it, I will keep adding stuff. But I think there will be a point where I run out of things that would make the game better, and then I will stop for sure.
That's fair.
And of course, if it doesn't sell well enough to keep me going, then I would stop too.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do before you can
Still
justify.
a smart way of looking at it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back into some more like game design specific questions.
Yeah.
What was the deciding factor of like the scale of these levels? Because they're all basically the same size, right?
Yeah.
But you allow pretty much any range of characters, even as few as 2, but the level basically stays the same. So I guess what was the deciding factor with how you designed most of these levels?
That's a super good question. For me, the biggest factor is the camera. And because this is a multiplayer game, and it's a local multiplayer game for now at least, you need to have everybody on one screen. And
you don't want to fall into the issue of like Gang Beasts where someone's up on top of the whatever you call those things.
The Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel, yeah, and someone's down on the bottom and can't even see what they're doing.
In Gang Beasts, does it zoom out until everybody's so tiny that you can't tell who you are? That's literally the reason this level is the size it is because I was running into that problem of like, if I zoom out too much, players lose track of themselves even more than they already do, and if I zoom in too close, this is good. This is a good bug.
Ooh.
Let me hit the R button to reset. Oh, you can do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it is pre-alpha, so bugs are
good,
definitely to
yeah.
be expected. So
Yeah,
don't
sure.
let that dissuade anyone. This is technically a press build.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say the game's already, considering you're doing it on Kickstarter, the game's already way more developed than most games are when they show them at Kickstarter.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, I was even saying this before we started the episode that this is definitely one of those games where me and my normal habits would be like, this isn't even an alpha, this is totally a beta, this is too pretty.
Sure.
Like, obviously, you have the core of the mechanics in place, which is generally the requirements for an alpha, and then traditionally speaking, but as an indie developer, nothing's really traditional. You would do the art in beta instead, but you've got this is, I guess, would you consider this like a vertical slice of the game as a whole?
Totally. That's leading up to the Kickstarter. I knew I wanted to have a vertical slice because if you don't have polished art, your game is totally not going to sell. I'm just going to reset it.
That's fair. Yeah, we might have bugged something out. But I totally agree, though. That's, I think, the first thing that I look for whenever I'm looking at Kickstarter games is if they have a demo.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have a name to back them up.
Yeah.
It's good. It's reassuring to have some proof that they actually can do it, because there's been so many scams on Kickstarter where it's like, oh, we're totally going to make this game. Look how beautiful this artwork is.
Sure.
Yeah, you need to. It's. I think over the years, Kickstarter, especially the people backing it, have developed to. They've grown enough to realize that you should see some proof of product.
Yeah.
And at this point, I mean, definitely, even the title screen. This is beautiful. It's so adorable.
It is pretty fucking charming.
I can't take credit for the title screen. I hired a guy named Storm Neep to make this with the characters I designed, and he did a stellar job. He also designed the t-shirt, which maybe you can see on the camera. I'm not sure. But if you back the Kickstarter, you can get this shirt.
Aw, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But Storm is great, and his art is obviously beautiful, so check him out on Twitter. His tag is @implodingoracle. He's cool.
And you did all the 3D art yourself too, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Many hats.
Yeah. I can't draw this well. Like I have a good idea of what commercial 2D art looks like, and I am not close to it. So
but you know how to push some polygons, so
sure. That was the first year and a half in school before I decided that programming would be a safer bet. And before I decided that I wanted to make my own entire games. But having spent that time has definitely paid off, I would say.
that makes sense.
Awesome.
I do have one question before we end things, because I feel the end coming. I'm really curious what was the deciding factor of having 8 characters?
8 characters. So leading up to the Itty Bitty Bash, which is like the small bit bash that we do every year for people when they come for Train Jam. If you don't know, Train Jam is a game jam on a train that goes to GDC, which is the
So
game
cool.
developer conference.
Which is definitely one of my dreams, to be on the Train Jam one of these days.
The hardest part is getting the ticket, because you have to be there, and then you have to be there in the 30 seconds before it sells out to get the ticket.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
So you actually were on the Train Jam one of these years?
I have been on the Train Jam all of the years.
Wow. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get in with the first batch, and then the second year they did alumni tickets, and the third year I hunted the page to be there in the 30 seconds. Anyway, for that Itty Bitty Bash, one of the people that runs it, I asked them, hey, I wanna put this game in Itty Bitty Bash. It's a Chicago game. I think it represents the scene. And they were like, if you do 8 players, then we'll do it. And then I was like, oh, sure, why not? And then people really liked the 8-player version. So
That's fascinating.
Stuck with it.
So were you just doing 4 players before that?
I think it was probably 4 at that point, maybe 6. Yeah.
I guess last fun questions. Any other game modes you've thought of besides the ones that we can see? teasers.
Yeah. There's a few that I'm already working on. One of them is volleyball mode.
Ooh.
I haven't quite figured out the physics of the ball so that you can like tap it without shooting it crazy far, and so you actually have enough control to get it over the net. That's one that I've been working on. What else? I really would like to do a basketball game, but I haven't figured out how it would work. If the ball just like stuck to your face, and like wherever you lean your head, the ball kind of sticks out in that direction, might work, but it would look silly if your mouth is not like facing the ball.
Yeah.
It's like on the back of your head.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one advantage, though, of making this a physics-based game, though, is it really opens a whole realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
And one other mode that I know the basics of is like a bomb territory mode, where you're like either throwing bombs into the other team's territory, and it's like timed bombs like Zelda, where you pick it up and then it blows up after 5 seconds. These cannons in the level shoot bombs into the level, and then you can like knock them into the other player's side. I haven't found a lot of fun, though. I haven't found the fun of that mode yet, but I think it's gonna be really cool when it's done.
Well, awesome. I think this game has a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see what comes of the full release of this. And I absolutely hope you guys go check out the Kickstarter too. You also run is it a daily stream on Twitch?
Yeah,
we were checking that out earlier.
Yeah. So alongside the Kickstarter, there's what I call a playable trailer, or some of my friends call it like a Twitch plays Sausage Sports Club. It happens every night from 7 to 9 p.m. and it's bot matches streaming on Twitch. And like player bots are playing, and you can bet on which team you think is gonna win. And there's like a digital currency on a leaderboard, and the top 10 people at the end of the month on that leaderboard are gonna win a copy of the game. Or if you're in the top 5, you get a shirt, and if you're the number 1, you get to design a character to be the final game. So check that out on Twitch/Sausage Sports Club.
We'll have a link in the description too.
Cool.
You'll probably see one of us on there at some point competing with you.
Sweet.
Well, cool. Any closing thoughts on, or any last messages you want to put out there?
Thank you guys for having me on. This has been really cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely a blast having you on the show with us. So, question of the day to you guys: if you had the option to make a game mode for Sausage Sports Club, what game mode would you make? I think that's a pretty fun one, especially the
I feel
physics
like
game.
personally answering which character you would make. Remember to check out his live trailer.
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone, and I guess we'll
Play
see.
Sausage Sports Club.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.